I was making over 70 grand a year, living in a city with an average cost of living, and I had $47 to my name 3 days before payday. I wasn't buying designer clothes. I wasn't taking luxury vacations. I was eating grocery store brand cereal and driving a 10-year-old car. I thought I was being financially responsible, but when I finally ripped the blindfold off and looked at where my money was actually going, I felt physically sick to my stomach. Hi, I'm Daniel Brooks, and you're watching Wealthic Voyage. Today, we're diving into the silent wealth killer hiding in plain sight, and how ignoring the small stuff almost ruined my financial future. Let me ask you a question, and I want you to answer it honestly in your head. Do you know exactly how much money you spent last month? Not your rent, not your car payment, I mean the other money. The money that just kind of vanished. Why is it that we can work 40 hours a week, deposit a solid paycheck, and within 10 days, our debit card is getting declined at the gas station? Where does the money go? For the longest time, I had a bulletproof excuse. I'd tell myself, I don't have a spending problem. I don't buy big things. It's just the cost of living these days. Everything is so expensive. Have you ever used that excuse? It's just inflation. It's the economy. We love to blame macroeconomic factors because it takes the responsibility off our own shoulders. But the truth is, I was lying to myself. And if you ever feel that anxiety of checking your bank app, you might be lying to yourself too. Let me take you back to the exact moment the lie fell apart. I was 28 years old. I had just sat down to do my taxes. I needed my total income for the year, which was $74,000. I looked at that number, and then I looked at my savings account, which had a grand total of $200 in it. I had made $74,000 that year. Where was it? Rent was $1,400 a month. Let's call it $17,000 a year. Car payment and insurance, $6,000 a year. Utilities and phone, $3,000 a year. Groceries, I estimated maybe $4,000, though I wasn't really tracking. That's $30,000. That left $44,000. $44,000. That is literally enough to fully fund a Roth IRA, max out a 401k, and still have thousands left over. I had $200 to show for it. My heart started racing. I felt like someone had stolen from me. I was angry at the world. But then, a quiet, rational voice in the back of my head said, "No one stole it. You spent it. You just don't remember." Have you ever experienced financial amnesia? Where you know you spent the money, but you cannot for the life of you remember what you got for it? I decided I was going to find out. I spent an entire Sunday downloading every single bank and credit card statement from the previous 12 months. I poured myself a massive cup of coffee, sat at my kitchen table, and I became a forensic accountant for my own life. And what I found shocked me to my core. The gurus always tell you to skip the $6 latte, right? The latte factor. It's the most famous piece of financial advice in history. Cut out the small daily expenses, invest that money, and you'll be a millionaire. I used to laugh at that advice. I'd think, please, a $6 coffee isn't making me broke. I don't even drink coffee every day. And I was right. The $6 coffee wasn't the problem. The problem was that I had mutated the latte factor into something entirely different. I call it the micro-leak syndrome. Let me explain what micro-leak syndrome is with a real-life example. I started categorizing my small expenses, things under $20. I found out I was spending $14.99 a month on a streaming service I hadn't watched in 3 months. I was spending $9.99 on a music app. I was spending $4.99 on a cloud storage upgrade I didn't need. I had a subscription to a meal prep delivery kit that I canceled after week 2, but they kept charging me $35 a month for 4 months before I noticed. Add that up. That's $65 a month, almost $800 a year. Gone, just floating out of my account on autopay, providing me with absolutely zero value. But subscriptions were just the appetizer. Let's talk about the psychology of convenience fees. I was the king of the convenience fee. I hated cooking, so I used DoorDash and Uber Eats. Not for fancy dinners, just for regular food. A $15 burrito becomes $24 after delivery fees, service fees, and the tip. I did this 3 times a week. That's $72 a week, over $3,700 a year, just to have someone drive a burrito to my house. I was literally paying thousands of dollars a year to avoid going to the grocery store, and then came the psychological trap that really did the damage, the impulse buffer. Because I thought I was good with money since I didn't buy big-ticket items, I gave myself permission to buy cheap stuff when I was bored, stressed, or sad. I'd be standing in line at the pharmacy, see a pack of gum, a lip balm, and a bottle of water. Boom, $12. I'd go to Target for toothpaste and walk out with a candle, a throw blanket, and some snacks. Boom, $45. I'd see an ad on Instagram for a weird kitchen gadget that peels garlic in 2 seconds. It's only $15. Boom. Do you know what a $15 impulse buy feels like? It feels like nothing. It feels free. But when I tallied up all those under $20 transactions for the year, the number made my vision blur. $9,400. I had impulsively, mindlessly, casually spent over $9,000 on nothing. Stuff that ended up in a landfill or shoved in a closet. This is the danger of ignoring small expenses. It's not about the $6 latte. It's about the fact that when you remove the friction of spending, when you have saved credit cards on your phone, when you use Apple Pay or Tap to Pay, you disconnect entirely from the pain of parting with your cash. When you pay with physical cash, your brain registers a literal pain response. The money is gone. You have less of it. But when you tap your phone against a little white square, your brain releases dopamine, the reward chemical, before it even registers the cost. You get the high of the purchase without the pain of the payment. I had hacked my own brain to quietly bankrupt myself, all while telling myself I was being frugal. But the story doesn't end there, because small expenses aren't just a math problem. They are a gateway to a much darker financial trap. When you bleed cash through micro-leaks, you destroy your financial margin. Your margin is the space between what you earn and what you spend. It's your breathing room. Because I was wasting $800 a month on micro-leaks, I had no margin. And what happens when you have no margin? Life punches you in the mouth, and you have to put the bill on a credit card. Let me give you a perfect example of the domino effect of ignoring small expenses. It was June. I got a flat tire. A new set of tires was going to be $450. In a healthy financial life, $450 is annoying, but it's not a crisis. You pull it from your emergency fund. But I didn't have an emergency fund because I had spent my margin on Uber Eats and Amazon impulse buys. So I put the tires on a credit card. Then, in August, my dog got sick. The vet bill was $600. Put it on the credit card. Then, in November, my car needed new brakes. $350. Credit card. Do you see what happened? The small expenses didn't just cost me the purchase price. They cost me my financial defenses. They forced me to take on high-interest debt to survive normal life events. By the end of that year, I had added $1,400 to my credit card balance. And because I was only paying the minimum, the interest was compounding at 24%. The $9,400 I wasted on small stuff didn't just disappear. It mutated into a $20,000 debt monster that was going to take me 4 years to pay off. I was sitting at my kitchen table, staring at a mountain of highlighted statements, and I realized something profound. I didn't have an income problem. I didn't have a big expense problem. I had an awareness problem. I was sleepwalking through my financial life. So, how do you fix this? How do you plug the micro leaks without driving yourself crazy or living like a monk? I developed a 3-step system that completely rewired my relationship with small money. Step 1. The friction audit. We need to make spending hurt again. Not in a traumatic way, but in a way that forces your brain to wake up and ask, do I really want this? I went into my phone and deleted every single saved credit card from Apple Pay, Google Pay, and Amazon. I know this sounds annoying. It is annoying. That's the point. If I want to buy something online now, I have to get up, find my wallet, pull out the physical card, and manually type in the 16-digit number, the expiration date, and the CVV. 90% of the time, during that 30-second process, my logical brain kicks in and says, you don't need this. Put the card away. Friction is the greatest defense against impulse buying. Make it hard to spend your money. Step 2. The 24-hour rule. For any non-essential purchase over $20, I force myself to wait 24 hours. I'll see a cool pair of sunglasses online for $40. Instead of clicking Buy Now, I add it to my cart and close the tab. If I still want it 24 hours later, and I mean genuinely want it, not just bored want it, I allow myself to buy it. You know what happens 90% of the time? I forget it even exists. The dopamine spike fades, the emotion passes, and I just saved $40. Step 3. Reverse auto pay. This was the game changer. We already established that companies use auto pay to silently steal our money. We need to use the exact same strategy against our debt and our wealth. I set up an automatic transfer of $300 a month from my checking account to a separate savings account. It happens on the exact day I get paid. I don't see it. I don't miss it. It just vanishes into a vault. By doing this, I artificially shrunk my checking account balance. When I open my banking app, it looks like I have $300 less than I actually do. This creates an illusion of scarcity that prevents me from spending carelessly. If my balance looks low, my brain naturally goes into conservation mode. And that $300 a month? It goes straight into a high-yield savings account to build my emergency fund, or it gets swept into an investment account to buy index funds. Once I implemented these 3 steps, the results were staggering. Within 3 months, my bank account balance wasn't just stable, it was growing. I didn't feel deprived. I wasn't eating rice and beans. I was still going out with friends. I was still buying things I genuinely loved. But I had eliminated the ghost spending. I stopped paying for things I didn't use. I stopped buying things out of boredom, and I stopped letting convenience fees drain my future. I used that reclaimed $800 a month to aggressively pay down my credit card debt. It took me 14 months to become completely debt-free, but the most beautiful part wasn't the math, it was the psychology. When you stop leaking money, you stop feeling guilty, you stop avoiding your bank app, you stop feeling that low-level hum of anxiety in the back of your head every time you swipe your card. You feel in control. And there is no better feeling in the world than feeling in control of your own life. Which brings me to the life lesson. The ultimate takeaway I want you to write down and stick on your mirror. We obsess over the big things in life. We stress over buying a house, getting a raise, paying off a massive student loan. And those things are important. But we completely underestimate the power of the micro decisions. Life is not built by the big choices you make once a year. Life is built by the tiny choices you make every single day. A $10 leak doesn't look like much today, but left unfixed, it will flood your entire house over a decade. Stop accepting the phrase, "It's just a few bucks," because a few bucks, compounded by neglect, multiplied by time, is the exact reason most people retire with nothing. Take an hour this week. Be a forensic accountant for your own life. Find your micro leaks. Add friction to your spending. And take your own money back. You worked too hard for it to let it slip through your fingers in the checkout line of a pharmacy. Protect your margins, plug the leaks, and watch what happens when you finally stop ignoring the small stuff. Thank you for spending this time with me today. If this opened your eyes, share it with a friend who might be leaking cash without knowing it. Hit that subscribe button and keep building your wealth, one conscious decision at a time.